Welcome to Rise of the Goddess Collective podcast. I am your host, Michelle Julian, your goddess guide. Today is a special episode, and I am talking about my favorite person, my grandson. And it's all about what I learned the past 10 days. My husband and I decided to take care of the 4.5-year-old Wyatt, and while the parents were away on a trip skiing, and it was really fun and very enlightening, and I just can't wait to share all of my ahas as not only as a mother or a caregiver, but just witnessing a 4-year-old learn how harmonizing habits is really like the key tool, right? The key tool to emotionally regulating your process in life. So, you always hope as a mother that you do everything that you can to help your child navigate in the world, but sometimes we need guidance. I know I did. And also, just staying inspired to learn. And one of the things I did was I would go according to the different age group that my daughter was going through. Like if she was going through the terrible twos, like read a bunch of books about that, or maybe talk to my mom about what she did. And, you just kind of figure it out as you need the guidance, and know that you're going to do the best you can, and you are probably not going to always do the right thing because that helps you relax. But, you also learn from your children. And that's what I learned over the past 10 days from my grandson. So he's a 4-year-old, and I learned so much from him. And children at that age have a remarkable ability to teach us about kindness, communication, emotional intelligence. They remind us to slow down and feel our feelings, which helps us better understand ourselves and others. And as you learn from your children, you also develop your own unique style of parenting. It's essential to trust your instincts and do what feels right for your child. And even if it goes against the traditional parenting methods. And as a grandparent, I witness the positive impact of the parenting choices and the lessons that I learned. And as I watched my own children become parents, you can offer, guidance and support as they figure it out, their own approach to child rearing, which my, daughter has done. We should never underestimate the power of learning from a child, though, no matter their age and their innocence and their curiosity and their emotional intelligence. It can inspire us to be better parents and better people. So as a parent, it can be challenging to know the right thing to do. But learning what instinctively feels right and improvising with our emotional intelligence, we can create a positive and nurturing environment for our children to thrive. It's unfortunate that, emotional intelligence was not emphasized in the past, as it is just as essential as traditional academic subjects. However, now we have the opportunity to prioritize it and see the positive impact it can have on our children's lives. As someone who has lived through several decades, I can see how the world is slowing down and recognizing the importance of emotional intelligence. It's vital that we contribute to society in a positive way, and that starts with raising emotionally intelligent and compassionate children. So the thing is you grow from your experiences and you prioritize this emotional intelligence in your parenting and in our lives. And we're doing it with compassion and understanding so we can create like a brighter future, not only for ourselves, but for the next generation. I was reading an article earlier just about that our generation has an opportunity to learn from our positive things that help them in their lives, and also can learn from the negative things that they came across. So then they don't need to pass that on. But the certain legacy that we leave generationally is real. And, I think communication and expression of our emotions are probably one of the essential elements of being a human being. So, as a grandmother spending time with my 4.5-year-old grandson, I realized the importance of my own emotional regulation. I needed naps, lots of naps. And he loved that because he understood, because he has like story time. He doesn't do naps anymore, but he like kind of has quiet time at school after lunch. And at home, they have quiet time with either listening to a story, or he is lucky enough to watch only like a short Netflix kid-friendly show. And he really learns about quieting his mind, slowing down, and going inward, right? He's going inward. He's using his imagination while he's listening to this story. And he learns, how feelings are important, whether you're happy, you're sad, and ways to, they call it do the opposite, learn how to do the opposite. And so he can feel really happy by doing certain things with his hands, and then coming and bringing his hands down to feel another way. And it's really fun to watch and witness him learn about his emotions and how he can regulate them in a story. And they put so much fun to it. You don't even, you're not realizing they're really teaching this emotional regulation, but he's learning to help himself, feel into whatever he's feeling. If he's feeling sad, he can feel sad and express that. And that's such a great skill to learn in the world. So you can, develop the strength of this emotional intelligence because it's a practice. And I think what was the big, takeaway for me, because it's such a fast-paced world with all our technology. And when I brought up my daughter, we didn't have a phone. She didn't have a phone, and she wasn't even exposed to like phones or anything. I don't even think I exposed her to computer. It's kind of nice. The technology is nice because it gives us convenience and more free time in some ways, but it also is tempting to speed up our getting things done, to become, more efficient with our tasks, which can lead to, kind of neglecting that space, that me time, quiet time, and this will then affect that emotional well-being. And, during the time with my grandson, I noticed that, both my daughter and her husband, they need to navigate this in a way that's a little bit tricky because they work full time you know, they're working for other people. They're not entrepreneurs, per se, like me. I've been an entrepreneur really over many decades. This can make it challenging to prioritize that emotional intelligence and regulation of emotions, which is pretty critical for the children's development in this world, to really be in the world, to be kind and be aware and be kind to ourselves first. So it's hard to navigate this ever changing world. But I think that if we stay open minded and curious about how we can prioritize this emotional intelligence and expression of emotions, even in the midst of this fast paced modern life, by doing so, we can create a more balanced, fulfilling life for ourselves and future generations. So, as a grandmother, I have witnessed how important it is to have emotional intelligence as you're raising a child. This world is so fast paced. And with technology, it can be helpful but overwhelming. It's essential to kind of slow down. With my 4-year-old, he taught me that importance, to even help him with his emotional regulation. And it's just kind of interesting, the whole concept of, you know, whether you're an entrepreneur, to understand that the energy is required when raising a child while working with someone else versus owning a business. But, learning to manage the time and prioritize, responsibilities is such a valuable skill for everyone, regardless of their career path. And, understanding the concept of time and managing it efficiently is not only a crucial skill that children need to learn. As a 4.5-year-old, my grandson, he was already learning the skill by managing his preschool time. He's so cute. He knows when he's supposed to be picked up, when he's going to school. He's very aware of time, and he's also aware of bedtime. It's fascinating to see how he understands the importance of managing time to feel good in his body. So cute. He has these little timers. They're sand timers. So you flip them over and the sand goes through, and there are different times. There's one for 5, 10, 15, I think 20. There's even a 1 minute. I think there might be 2 minutes. No, I think it's 1 minute. And then 5, 10, 15. And he is so cute. When we were using the timers, he knew how to manipulate to extend the time because he understands the concept of time. And he knew, bedtime's happening. And so he's looking at the sand, the timer, as we're playing the game. Because we always play some kind of game, call it the community game. And he said, Mimi, we can do this community game anywhere. We can do it at your house. We can do it in Vermont, because he has a house in Vermont. He goes, and whenever you come here, you can do it. And, we can do it anywhere, wherever we are. We always can play this community game. It's just so cute. And, he's excited about creating something with somebody else, that connection, that human connection. And he's just full of curiosity and wants to have this experience with you, and he wants you to have a good experience, and just very sweet. So just need to digress there and give you the cute little story. But it's it's hard, the concept of time, myself, I know I always struggled with time management. And even as a young adult, I struggled with it. It was just one of those skills that my mom just really didn't ingrain in me. I don't know. I don't think they were watches. I started wearing a watch and that really helped. And, once I was in school, really had to be on a schedule, right? And then, once you get out of school, you graduate, you get a job, and then you're working for somebody, you really have to know the concept of time. But as an entrepreneur, it was even kind of trickier for me because I had more space. So being aware of time was hard, even to the point sometimes when I would be with a client, I wouldn't even know how much time would go by. And, they would be like, oh my God, it's like, you know, 2:30, I needed to get out of here by 2 o'clock or 2:15 to get back to work, and they loved, working with me, but they, really wanted me to be more aware of time. And so I learned and they learned my style and we, figured it out. And then just really working on that skill and understanding that things start and then they also finish. There's not this endless loop of life. It's kind of fun. It's my husband because he's the opposite of me. He is very time oriented. He's typically the type of person that goes to the place a half an hour before, maybe even more than that, before to be there before half an hour because he doesn't like the stress of rushing. And with me, it felt normal to have that stress. So, it's really interesting to see how my daughter broke that cycle and how she is very time oriented. She did not learn the lack of time management from me. She absolutely broke that cycle. Her dad was very time oriented. But I really think, that's what children do. They kind of learn the things they don't want to learn from the parent, and they take the stuff that they do want to learn. And I was I was always interested in being an energy healer and being an occupational therapist, massage therapist. And I learned about pacing myself, and that's how I kind of birthed the Julian method. And, to kind of divert into another subject, but it all ties in because, you know, you really need to understand pacing and have a pace that's in alignment with your energy expenditure. And that kind of ties in with you learn what you need to learn from your parents and you unlearn what you don't need to learn from your parents. Um, and you know, it's interesting that even with time management and pacing, also learn how important like sleep is as you get older. And um, children don't know that they're tired. They just got all this kind of kinetic energy, frenetic energy, I call it, when they're really overtired. They think that they're getting a surge of energy, but it's really that they're just frenetic and they really need to slow down and pause and do all that pacing with slowing down. So you're playing with the community, but then you're going to start to read a book and then brush the teeth and talk smoothly, lower your voice, get the pace. So it's really sleepy. Did I put you to sleep? No. Yeah. So, this is really the trick. The trick is thinking positively, starting your day and checking in with yourself throughout the day. like asking questions like, how am I feeling right now? What is causing me stress or anxiety? And then taking the time to nurture self in those moments. Now, if you're doing that, your child is going to model that. So they model what they learn. And a really fun side note, my grandson, when we were playing the community game, he actually diversed, diversion, something like that. Anyway, he decided to change it up a little bit. He became his dad and he was working, and then he pulled out the little baby doll, and I was the mummy taking care of the baby, and the dad needed to go upstairs to go to work because they work sometimes from their house, right? And it was so fun to see him model his dad, like even his mannerisms. He kind of like took his head and kind of brought his head down and kind of went up the stairs because that's where his office is. And then he would come back and he'd say, okay, I took care of that. We can finish the game now. And it was just so, so sweet to see him do that. And, you know, it's just important to be in that moment, in that space when the child is expressing these emotions, and watching how he's modeling what you're doing is really a key takeaway for you as a parent. So, when you keep creating these habits and these routines that support the overall well-being of your child, it's helping you commit to yourself and your own needs. Same time, it's not always easy, but it's definitely worth it in the long run. And it's not just about sleep. It's about taking care of yourself throughout the day, finding moments of peace and joy, and being intentional about how you live your life. And when your child sees you do this, when he sees you take care of yourself, then he's learning how to take care of himself. And finding harmony in our lives individually can be, hey, mommy wants to take a break and go see her girlfriends. And that's important for mommy, because mommy is mommy, but she's also a wife, but she's also a person that has her own needs and her own things that she wants to work on and develop and nurture, her friendships, or maybe it's a creative like project. Maybe it's something that hasn't done in a long time. Maybe she just needs to go for a bike ride alone by herself and learn how to sink into her quiet time. And I see my daughter doing these things now as she has a child, and she understands the importance of her own emotional regulation and how that's affecting her son. And so is her dad. I mean, not her dad, but Wyatt's dad is doing the same. And that's great for him to see that, it's really important for your child to witness you having a healthy relationship with yourself, whether it's about food, understanding, there's junk food and there's healthy food, and they're even teaching him about that and how, he's skiing and he can have a hot dog and he can have a chocolate chip cookie, and he knows that's kind of considered junk food. And then the healthy food is more like, the broccoli, the beets, lots of vegetables. He so understands vegetables, and that's a contribution to him having access to a farm, which Ashley's husband, Eric, his sister, has a farm. So he really understands about, vegetables and how long vegetables last and all the vegetables that are good for you. And, just he just knows so much about healthy versus unhealthy. And it's a really good, healthy relationship with food. So there's no shaming going on. And he knows when he's full. There's no like, you got to eat everything that's on your plate, because that's how I grew up, and I think most, people in my generation grew up that way. You got to eat everything on your plate. You can't leave the table unless you have eaten everything on your plate. And, that kind of contributed to me having my own overeating, disorder, and a lifelong journey of really learning how to know when I was full. And, learning that isn't ever, it's a long journey. I'm still learning it, and I'm still processing that sometimes. I've definitely gotten to that point where I'm getting the handle on it. And it's just so nice to see my grandson not like picking up on those old paradigm programmings of, this food is bad and this food is good. And you only, get to eat XYZ. And it just shouldn't be like that, because when you're doing that, you're contributing to a very toxic culture with food. And I'm just so grateful and blessed to see my daughter and her husband changing that paradigm. And so I just want you to take this episode in and have your own reflection time on the theme of emotional regulation and harmonizing our habits, and how you can be inspired to see your children learn such a young age to understand their own feelings, witness them, be curious, tune into what makes them feel good, take the time with them. It's definitely going to be worth it, because in today's world, there's a lot of shame and judgment surrounding these food choices and lifestyle habits. But instead of shaming ourselves or others, you can focus on education and awareness to help them live healthy, fulfilling lives. And, just to achieve this, I would ask yourself questions like, how can I reset my habits to be more in harmony with a lifestyle I aspire to have? And then take an action mindfully, physically, and spiritually. By learning to emotionally regulate and strengthen our emotional intelligence, we can create positive change in ourselves and the world around us. So let's take inspiration from the example of Wyatt and his embracing the gift of understanding his own feelings, so he can be the creator of his own world without shaming himself or judging himself, and understanding that he gets to learn this awareness so he can live his best life. Thanks for listening today to my story of the Wyatt story of me taking care of Wyatt, my 4.5-year-old, remember, your activation is my activation. Bye for now.